planning is key. Some of the times, projects basically fails when the planning is not correct. It's more like the foundation phase. When the foundation is not strong, it's not going to carry everybody.
Welcome everyone. My name is Anagu Chinadro. I'm going to be your host for today. And with me, I have a friend, and I also have the CEO of ISA Technologies here with us, Mr.
Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Ikoba Pius.
Alright, welcome Mr. Pius.
Welcome.
We're happy to have you here. So for today's session, we're looking at software development explained for non-techies. Software development for non-techies. So we're seeing how you all who want to come into tech can, come in into the industry. And with us as well, he's also a software developer as well. And he has years of experience in this field. So we're going to be learning a lot of things from him. I hope you are ready.
I'm obviously willing to give as much knowledge as informed rather to help you get started.
Exactly.
Or even help you continue wherever you are right now in your journey as a tech or as a software developer.
All right. So without further ado, let's go straight into it. For today's session, first of all, the session is divided into 4. We have the part 1, part 2, 3, and 4. So for the first session, the heading here says understanding what software development really means. All right. So people hear about software development and they always think that it's just coding. Now, is that the reason that's involved when it comes to software development? Is it just coding and coding? What's involved?
All right. So the thing is, when you hear the word software and development, it's a combination of two words, right? So from the literal meaning of development, anything you hear about development obviously involves different phases.
Exactly.
And then software on its own side, it's when you hear software, it's an application, or it's a something that is not hardware, that you cannot see, it's not tangible, right? You cannot see it, that helps you solve problems. So when you think about software, software development rather, when you think about software development, what should basically come to your mind is the different phases it takes for you to solve people's problems. And the solution that you prefer is not something that is visible, it's not something you can see. So that is just the simple definition of software development. So you think about solving problems, problem solving, and then it's in phases. So that defines what software development really is.
Okay, so it's a step-by-step process,
It's a step-by-step process.
Okay. So how is the planning done before you start any software development? How is it planning? How is it?
All right. So just like I said, it involves different phases, right?
Yeah.
It involves a whole lot of phases. Now, when it comes to development of software, it brings you down to the planning phase. You have your planning phase. You have to plan how the project is going to be like. And basically, it involves working with different teams at that instance, because in different phases, you obviously need to work with different team members. And all those team members have their responsibilities and roles everybody play. So the absence of one team member in that particular production or that particular development might really affect the project. So for software development, we have different things. We have the planning phase, we have the execution phase, we have the development phase, we have the testing phase, we have the deployment phase. All of these different phases is what your software goes through. So everything you think about, take for instance, even your OP, for instance, it's a software that is solving financial problems, right? So it follows through this sequential phases of development before it becomes live for you to use. So all of these different phases are very important, and we even equally have the maintenance phase. That's why you see sometimes you have to go to your Play Store and they tell you to update certain application, because all of this one involves equally development of the project. In that phase, we call the phase maintenance phase, and it's always ongoing. It's not ending as long as that project or that software is needed, still needed. It's definitely going to still need maintenance processes or phase.
Okay. So planning is very, very important.
Planning is key. In fact, planning is key for most of the, in fact, some of the times projects basically fails when the planning is not correct.
Okay.
It's more like the foundation phase. When the foundation is not strong, it's not going to carry everybody. And then the funny thing is that you don't just plan how the project is going to be, you still plan who you work with, you plan how the communication flow is going to be. So all of these things is what involves the planning phase, what we do at the background before before the project is deployed for testing or for use by real users.
Okay, so you mentioned something about teams. Now, what questions these teams ask before project starts? What kind of questions do you expect from them?
Firstly, the person responsible for the planning phase is basically either the product manager or the project manager. In that instance, they plan what are we going to build. They plan what are we going to build first of all. So let's build this thing. So what are we building? Who are we building it for? So you begin to check how viable this product is going to be, or this software is going to be. So you ask all of these questions. What are we building? How are we building? Where is the finance coming from? What's the different phase? So all of these questions are the foundational questions that need to be answered if you actually want to experience success as it concerns that project development.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, there's one common question I usually ask myself. Why is it that when you use some kind of application, like, okay, you mentioned OPay, for example.
Yes.
And I use OPay, it's very simple to use to an extent. There are some also very difficult softwares that I've used before. One of them is actually Discord. When I first used Discord, they're difficult for me to use, but with time, it became more easier. So why is those applications difficult to use at times?
All right. So first, you really need to understand that remember I talked about the users who are building it for you. Yes. I said in the planning phase, you have to bring to the table who will use this application, and that is key. So now you need to understand that in that instance, it's a phase where we talk about the product designers, or we mainly call them the UI UX designers. So we begin to check who are these users. Now you need to understand that your focus for developing this product should be centered around the user, because if you develop a product and somebody is not able to use it, you develop a product for me, or you are gifting me something, and I'm not able to use that gift. To a large extent, that is not beneficial to me.
Yes.
Right? So for your product to be beneficial to the users, for your product to be usable by the users, liked by the users, you need to focus or center it around the user. So now when you talk about some product being difficult to use, it now boils down on who the users basically is. So if, for instance, your users are people like the Discord that you mentioned, if your users are people that are basically in maybe SS3, for instance, that are mobile, now you now understand that people that are in SS3, they are not so technologically inclined to be able to use such sophisticated software. So in that instance, it's going to be difficult for them to be able to access and use that product effectively. So to that instance, your product is not meeting user needs. So we say it's not useful to the users, right? So you need to consider your product you are building and to be sure that it is meeting user needs. If you give me a product and I don't like that product, I'm not using that product, to that instance, you've not developed a product, because the users are not going to be using it. So your users are very important in every development product or processes rather that you go through.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. So just to summarize, basically, the first question I was asked was, is software development all about just coding? And from what you have seen, it's not really about coding.
No, it's
not just you're trying solving problems is the main thing, right?
Yes, solving
you're
problems.
able to solve.
Now that even brings you back to the idea that it's not every software that you basically need to use code. There are some no-code software applications, right? You don't basically need to. In fact, there are some AI automations, AI WhatsApp automation. So in that instance, you are building a software that you don't necessarily have to do any coding.
Yes.
Right. When I think I basically explained is that something that is not tangible, something that is not visible, you cannot see it, but it's solving problems. You can categorize that as a software. This is a software. So in software, we have both hardware and software, right? So we have hardware and software. So basically, once it's not visible, and it's solving problem, it is software.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. So you've also saying that. Oh, I want to ask a question basically.
All right.
Before you start working on social development, you need to identify a problem, right?
Yeah, you need to
so that means every software that we have today is solving at least one problem.
If it's not solving any problem, it's not a software.
Exactly.
It must be solving problems.
Okay. So at what point now does design come into the process?
Okay. Now we bringing it to the tech space.
Yeah.
For software development, I basically talked about um having different teams that you collaborate with.
Yes.
In that instance, we call that cross-function teams, because you are going to be working with people that are not, yeah, people that are not within your own field.
Yes.
Right. So we have something like project managers, we have product design, we have the front end guys, we have the back end guys, we have the DevOps, we have the cloud computing engineers.
Yeah.
So all of these different people now, depending on the type of application you are building, you're now bringing these guys. So, but these are different things. So now, after the planning phase, the next phase we move into is the design phase, to implement everything you've planned, to implement it to become a design, so that we can now see what we are trying to solve. It becomes more clearer when it's in design form.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay,
so we've learned a lot so far. We've seen that coding is not the only thing that is involved, but rather solving problems. We've also seen how important planning is before you actually start coding. Now, we've also seen the importance of design. I think you mentioned the UI example designers who actually work together to achieve these solutions that we create.